Hey folks, it's Simon here with a quick market update for Wednesday the 5th of November 2025. I recorded Tao Weekly on Monday and I called that video When Euphoria Turns Fragile, just highlighting some of the risks that I saw to the markets. Now clearly Tuesday we saw a bit of risk off, right? S&P was down about 1.2%, Nasdaq was down a little more than 2%. So far this is kind of textbook behavior for the markets. The S&P rallied into this red line, which generally means the index is quote unquote overbought, and when that happens it'll often try and find this white line here. Now if we look at the Nasdaq, same thing happened. We rallied into this red line up here and now it looks like we're falling back into the white line. So nothing to be too worried about yet, but we are entering into a really crucial test for the market. Why do I say that? Because this white line here, this was the high on this wide bar that we had on the 10th of October. All right, remember I said, unless we get a breakout of this range, I'm not really getting too excited about market direction. We stayed within that range for 9 trading days. We broke out to the upside, and now this white line needs to come in and act as support. All right, if it doesn't, if the buyers don't step in here today, tomorrow, and we close below this level, we kind of start looking for a retest of the lower end of this box. Okay, things could certainly start to look a little more bearish. Now, if dip buyers do come in today, tomorrow, it could just be business as usual, and we've got another bullish November in the making. If they don't, and we start coming back to the lower end of this box, the market could start to have a different sort of complexion to it. Now, so far, most of the pain is being felt in kind of the former high flyers, things like SMR. All right, the kind of the nuclear stocks, they're getting sold off pretty hard. The quantum computing stocks, they're getting sold off pretty hard. They've lost trend structure. Some of these rare earth minerals type stocks, they've been selling off pretty hard as well. They've lost trend structure. So a lot of those former high flyers are having a reckoning. And honestly, if some of this speculative froth gets worked out of the market, that's going to be a healthy sign. Meanwhile, things like Google looks great here. It needs to pull back. Nvidia still acts really bullish. That kind of needs to pull back to create a buying opportunity. Meta is done. That thing is completely broken down. And things like Meta and indeed Oracle could be a cautionary tale for what happens to some of the other large cap high flyers. Okay, Oracle rallied here. It was up 35% this day here, back on the 10th of September. That was on news of $380 billion worth of forward orders. The Wall Street Journal revealed that $300 billion of that was from OpenAI, a company that's kind of did $4 billion of revenue for the first 6 months of the year and is still making a loss. That's a company that is currently backstopping about $1 trillion worth of AI CapEx. All right, so if the market starts asking tough questions from a number of these stocks, there is potentially a lot of wind to come out of the sails. All right, so this week I think is important. If this support level holds, yeah, I think we're kind of back to the races. If it doesn't, I think the market could start to take on a slightly different complexion. The other thing to bear in mind is if these are exhaustion gaps, all right, that has got some pretty nasty consequences for the market. This looked like it might have been the start of something rather than the end of something when we got this breakout. But if we look at the S&P 500 futures, which don't tend to gap as much, you can see this gap up has now been filled pretty convincingly. If that is an exhaustion gap, we could be looking at a change in trend here. Okay, I'm not ringing the alarm bells yet, but these are things I'm looking for, and I am hedged. I've got some cool credit spreads in VXX, which are performing nicely. That's what I wanted to share today. I hope it helps, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you.